Morning, not too bad. Just waiting on a listing to sign some paperwork and then hopefully get another buyer accepted today.
Nice. Yeah, I might have a listing going pending today, maybe.
Yeah.
And then I have a couple of houses in Gillette that should be sometime this month, I certainly hope, but we're both doing like house repairs. Um and like getting things ready and it's been waiting for like a month. I'm like, chop chop, let's go. But they say they're
Uh,
getting close.
well, I would trade you. I have four of them coming next month that I've been waiting on since January. And then I have one that came live this month that I've been waiting for since February that
Wow.
they decided to list with somebody else even though I've done all the work because I didn't answer my phone, but they didn't ever message me. So
Wow.
I was pretty pissed about that, but
But now you're gonna work with them.
no. I brought
Oh,
in two buyers and both my buyers said, yeah, they're overpriced. So,
yeah. Ugh,
and
that's
then
shitty.
yeah, the listing that'll come live today, I've been waiting for since about February too, honestly. But this one's $1 million one, so
Hell yeah. Congrats. That's awesome.
thank you. How's business been up there?
It's been okay. It slowed down a little bit. Like right now, I'm kind of freaking out. I don't have anything pending. Um, I have two listings active. But then like working with some buyers, but nothing that's like we're looking at shit, but I'm like, we need to write something. Um, so hopefully I'm getting close, but I wrecked my car like
Oh,
3 weeks ago, so I totaled that, and then um, I had hip surgery. Um, so it's been an okay time for all of it to happen, I guess. This, like, but I've been doing some showings, and my niece just takes me and helps me and opens doors and stuff, and
yeah,
she's earning money for like a school trip. So I'm like, here's $20, come be my chauffeur.
that's good at least.
Yeah. So it's not been terrible, but
I will
God, I
say,
miss my big car though.
ooh, yikes.
Yeah. And it's so expensive to replace it that I'm like, okay, I'm not getting that car again.
Mm.
What car did you have?
2020 Chevy Traverse.
Yeah,
Um, it would be like another $20,000 to get the same kind of car.
yeah.
Um, and then like interest rates are horrible. So it would cost me like another $400 a month. I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna work.
Nice,
So
nice.
it's okay, I guess. It's whatever. At least my loan got paid off and I got a little bit of extra. So
Well, I was
I
gonna
mean,
say,
oh
yeah, that's the hard part is when you're upside down or something and you have to get it
yeah,
fixed.
yeah. Thank God I wasn't, but
All right. So I guess just the three of us, huh?
works for me. The A team over here.
How's life this week, Tegan?
It's been really up and down. Gambling wise, I've been killing it. Real estate until last Thursday, not so much. I had one under contract, second time we've been under contract. And then for whatever reason, this last Thursday, shit just started falling. Got a listing live yesterday, went under contract. Buyer that I've been working for about 3 months, we got under contract. And then buyer I've been working with for about a year, we just submitted a pretty respectable offer, and I bet we get accepted tomorrow.
I like how you're hesitant about the pretty respectable offer. That's pretty awesome.
I mean, it to me, it's a pretty respectable offer. It is 20,000 below, but the house needs some work, and right now, an
And the
up.
market, yeah. What are you gonna do? Pay full price for shit right now?
Well, they actually, they sold their house in Gillette and they actually got full asking price 4 hours into being live.
Wow,
Um,
that's craziness. Um, okay, so if it was somebody else, we would just dive into these, and I know we want to kind of go line by line, but real estate brokerage disclosure hasn't changed at all. Do either one of you guys have any questions or any things that you've seen, something that's come up in conversation that we need to chat about for brokerage disclosure?
No, I got the brokerage pretty
so
well down.
I would hope so, buddy. I would hope so.
I can get my notebook. Okay.
Hey, Casey, what I just told Tegan, I didn't realize you had stepped out, but since it's just the three of us, brokerage disclosure really didn't change. Nothing happened that way with it.
Yeah.
Going over
Okay.
that, how are you doing with it? Any issues that have come up recently that you want to talk about?
No, no, I feel like um that the last time we kind of went through and I like printed them and made notes and stuff, that was really helpful. So
Okay. Yeah, the best thing I'll tell you is just continue. I mean, so Wyoming still says that open houses are fair game, right? You don't have to give a broker's disclosure if you're talking to somebody at an open house. You don't have to do it. What are the other ones that you don't have to do it at? If they're just asking general information about a house, you don't have to, kind of thing. But just with the NAR stuff and all that kind of thing, just have them with you, right? That's all we're asking you to do. And then have the discussion as quickly as you can. When you're at an open house or you're showing one of your own listings, if that works out and it's a customer kind of on the other side, you want to get them that brokerage disclosure as soon as you can so that they know what's going on and that they can look at representation. Um, Tegan, you're still signing intermediary agreements initially, correct?
On anything that's mine, yeah, I sign them intermediary or I just sign them customer, just depending upon the conversations I've had them before.
Okay.
Some, if they're
There,
gonna be customer,
there
I,
was some confusion apparently about the designation of agent and the designation of intermediary forms. But and hopefully you guys, or at least Tegan, is on top of it. Casey, you don't deal with it very much up there, but you can sign right into as a. Let me share my screen here, I guess. So this one, if you can see that, is the exclusive right to buy contract buyer agency, right? But we also have the intermediary version of that, where you can sign directly into this. So the only time you need to use the designated agency or the designated intermediary forms is if you are dealing with somebody else in the same brokerage or that has the same broker. So I believe, Casey, if you and I did a deal, that we would have to be in either designated agency or designated intermediary because David is the broker for both of the brokerage firms that are in Wyoming. If you always do agency, then you would just use the designated agent form. If you're already in an intermediary section, you could do the designation of intermediary. For you, Tegan, if you're doing the same person and you're an intermediary because you have both sides, you're not going to designate, right? You're just going to do both sides as an intermediary. And they either have to have signed this agreement initially or if you had them under agency, you would have to step down by signing the in company amendment, in company transaction. Is that how you do it?
yeah, the consent to in-company transaction.
Okay.
Yep.
And if
can
you
you
sign,
back up a second, Sean?
yep, that's okay.
So designated agent only if both of us work with Keller, we both have the same broker.
Correct.
But we both have, you're representing a buyer as a buyer's agency. I'm representing buyer as a buyer's agency.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So So let's say that it was up there, and let's say it was Mickey on the other
Mhm.
side of the deal for you guys, and one of you guys had the buyer, and one of you guys had the seller, and you guys were already signed under agency agreements with those guys. You don't have to change to intermediary. You can just do a designated agent form,
Okay.
make sure everybody gets it signed off on it. What you end up getting is you get David as the broker, and then you would get me or Tim or Will or somebody as an intermediate, as a transaction coordinator or a transaction manager, basically for you guys. And then if
Okay.
you needed to talk to somebody about something, and it was information that you can't share that you need to keep private because it's still confidential, then you could talk to that transaction manager about it, and that transaction manager could talk to the other side, not disclosing anything, and then you could get it figured out. But you've got somebody to talk to then that doesn't divulge or doesn't share that information on the other side.
Would I only
Okay.
be able to talk to you because those two are not licensed in Wyoming, though?
I think that we could probably set anybody for it. I would typically be the one in Wyoming, I think, that would do it. Not that we don't anyway already, but
Um, so intermediary exclusive right to buy right out of the gate if you know you're gonna have both sides.
Yes,
yes.
or a customer.
Or yep, then you could do customer. Okay.
Right. And the conversation that Tegan and I have always had, and I don't know if we've had it, Casey, but let's say that you've been representing somebody for like 3 months. Right? You've been their agent for 3 months. You're doing all the deal. You know what's going on and everything. And then somebody comes in on the other side that you don't know, that really doesn't have any, you don't have any obligation to or any real tie to or anything. You can just give them the option straight up. Hey, I can still take care of this deal for you. Here's what it is. You've already worked out your either unrepresented buyer fee or however you're going to work it out with your seller anyway. So you just then have to make sure that the customer knows that the broker's disclosure says, hey, you can have representation in Wyoming. If you're okay without it, you can make that choice. And then we go one step farther at this point than we used to, which is I would have them sign that customer disclosure agreement just so that they understand how they're not being represented. And
Okay.
that's more of a CYA thing. Are you having them do that, Tegan, if you have a customer?
Sign the customer agreement
Yeah,
deal?
the
Yeah.
disclosure. Yeah.
I immediately start out with them if I'm showing my own showing, like if it's uh, like a sign call or something like that. I just have them sign it and say, hey, in this transaction, I'd love to represent you as an intermediary, but as of right now, instead of going through those steps, if you want to look at this house, here's a customer agreement, here's a brokerage disclosure, this is what it does, blah, 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 blah. If you decide you want to change your representation or if you'd like somebody else to represent you, I'll refer them over to you or we'll sign intermediary forms.
Okay. And remember that is I think that's fantastic because I do think that's the right process. But you could show your own listing without having anything signed if they wouldn't or whatever the case is because you're still working for the seller at that point.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's really just how I've changed because I want to keep these buyers. Before,
Yeah,
when
no,
it
I
was the
agree.
hardcore seller
Yeah.
side, I didn't give a shit. Come in representing them,
But
but
now
yeah,
the buyers are super valuable for you to have. I agree.
yeah.
Okay.
So then if you're repping both sides and you know too much, that's when we're gonna step down. Um, and we would do the in company transaction or whatever, right?
You need to do that
So I and
before.
Tegan and I, and you can give your perspective on it, Tegan, but I think that there's a time and a place for intermediary. And like you're in Buffalo, which is small town Wyoming as well. But when you are right at the beginning of it, or you know that you're going to have the buyer, maybe. So like Tegan sells a lot of his own listings. So a lot of times he'll just start straight out with an intermediary agreement and then sign whoever else comes in that wants to buy it as a buyer as an intermediary as well. And that way he never has to step down or change his representation for it. If you have somebody where they've already figured out kind of what's going on, maybe people have been talking because it's like a family thing. maybe somebody's trying to sell something and their neighbor wants to buy it. Those are good candidates for it, where you're not really having to recommend or advocate or do anything for anybody. You're just there to make sure that everything goes well and goes right and gets done, kind of a thing. If they know each other, because it's going to be small town, and everybody knows everybody else's business, sometimes it is because you're not really, because you can't stop them sometimes from talking to each other, even though you want to, because it's small town Wyoming kind of thing.
Yeah.
So case by case basis, just remember that if you do step down, that if you were agent before, you have to do the in-company amendment, the in-company transaction, inform both parties and have them sign that document, which says that they understand that you're stepping down to an intermediary and you are no longer their agent.
And I preface all my listings, so I sign all my listings as agency, and then
Okay.
in there I put that whatever that disclosure that states if I represent both parties, I'm pursuing X amount of commission, and then I have that conversation with them. Hey, I represent 30% of my transactions right now. I represent both sides, very confident in it. This is how it's going to look. Blah 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 blah. This is what you're going to be due. In that case, it's going to be in your benefit that I drop my commission a little bit because we're not going to be representing with two sides. You're going to get a little bit less representation, but at the end of the day, your bottom line is going to be better. And I'm going to have full information on it for like lender and everything so I can get you quicker updates. And that's how I kind of swing it. And
Gotcha.
so far, I've had every single one of them sign off on that. I'm going to start having them initial that portion. That way, when we do that, just say, hey, as in reference to our addendum, when we said we're going to be dropping into intermediary status, do you remember that conversation? Here's that form, sign it. You've already initialed here. I'm going to represent this person as an intermediary, or I'm going to represent him as a customer because I don't know anything about him.
Gotcha. When you do, are you talking about the language in additional provisions or in commonly used clauses that just says if there's an unrepresented buyer, this is what it'll be? Is that what you're using?
Yeah, if there's an unrepresented buyer or a buyer that I've previously represented or something to the effect of that.
Or that you work with as an intermediary, I think is the other language we threw in there.
Yeah, it's something like that. But
Okay.
yeah, no, I disclose it to them as quick as I can. Like I
Okay.
said, 30% of the time, so majority of them know what we're gonna do before we get there.
Um, are you guys going back and if you are you adjusting? Are you? I know that it's negotiable, right? What your buyer agent fee is. We're putting it in the contracts. What do you work for in Buffalo, Casey? What are you putting in there?
Buffalo is 2%, Sheridan 2 to 2.5, and then Gillette's always 2.5.
Okay, so I would tell you that when you say that, remember that your conversation should look like, hey, this is what I work for, and that's your decision. And then if they want to ask other questions, you can word it that, what we see in the market is averages of, 2 to whatever percent, 2.5, 3.5, whatever. You never want to kind of throw it out there as, hey, this is what those markets are dictating I do, because you make that choice, right? And it's negotiable with you and the client for what it is. Do you ever adjust yours down at all or up based on the contract?
Um, I won't go down. I won't go any lower than the 2. Usually, so like if I'm getting ready to do some 2 listings in Gillette, and um we would do 5%, and I would do 2.5 and 2.5, but I'd have that conversation to say, these are our options. We don't have to pay that, but that we like historically this is what it's looked like. These are some benefits, blah blah blah.
And when you
Yeah,
say
yeah, dude.
5%, you don't put 5% in B, correct?
She's listing old school, I think, Tegan. She's not listing the way you list.
Yeah, I go old school.
But you still wouldn't put 5, you'd put 2 and 5. Oh, this is the buyer one.
This
Okay.
is
Yeah, so I
this
would
is the
do
buyer one
2
she's
or
talking
two and a
about.
half.
Gotcha.
Casey, what I would tell you to consider on your buyer side stuff. So let's say that I was going to make an offer on one of Tegan's properties, and I was, pretty reasonably sure that it was a decent offer. Now that's not true. Let's say that I was going to make Tegan a full price offer, no concessions. I very well that's probably the easiest time for me to up my buyer's commission, and that might be a 3% offer for me, depending
Okay.
on what the market's doing, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to throw him an offer that is 100% clean, I've got a set of cash buyers right now that we're not asking for any closing costs. We're going to go like 7 day. That's a 3% offer for me.
That you're gonna say, hey,
Yep, on this one
Mr.
I'm working for
Lister, I'm
3%.
bringing you a good offer, clean cut. Instead of 2.5, you're gonna pay me 3 to get this done easy.
Yep.
Okay. Like dangling
So
that
and
carrot more.
there's different versions of that, and I don't know if Tegan's using any of that over there, but there's just some that, depending on what you got going on, may lend itself a lot easier to you doing it, because it's that package transaction now at this point where they're looking at everything that's on the table.
Okay.
Some of these ones I'm asking for 10,000 in closing costs, down payment assistance, buy down. I mean, I might be asking, counting everything, counting buyer agency. Sometimes we're asking for like 20 grand, 24 grand. So
Uh-huh.
those ones are probably a little tougher for me to get a higher buyer agency percentage out of for
Hmm.
what I work for. But just look and know that there might be some opportunities, and it just
Okay.
depends on how your market's working out up there. Do you do any of that, Tegan?
I've tried it a couple times. I've never got one through over 2.5, but tried it. I'll probably just stick to the 2.5 straight. I've never
Well,
gone
and
below it.
bottom line is, we're not here to set or decide that. It's just all negotiable. So depending, and just remember that depending on what the transaction is, you may have options in there to be able to play around with that a little bit.
Yeah, and on a couple of my investors, I tell them like, hey, I kind of want to play with it. If I'm really going to work my ass off in this, finding you a deal, I'm going to charge 3 and we're going to ask it. But at the end of the day, if I get 2.5, I'm not going to kill a deal on it.
Right? No, I agree. I'm the same boat.
Everybody else, I just sign them on a 2.5. And if it's something that, like you said, that we're going to do that, I might approach them and say, hey, not money hungry, but this is going to be kind of a clean cut deal. I'm going to be doing a decent amount of work and bringing
Yeah,
you a good
and
one.
on the other side too, like you said, right? If you're working with an investor and you're sending them properties every week and you're doing walkthroughs and you're showing and you're doing whatever, that value is probably a little bit higher, right? Than maybe another transaction. So, yeah, just something to consider. Those are all negotiable. Please make sure, because you're going to have the conversation here in the buyer agency agreement for what you work for, and then if you change what that is, go back in and do that amendment, because now we have an amendment and an addendum to this contract, right? So go back in and change it and just make sure they match when you're done. And that doesn't have to really be done until the end and it's all closed out and everything. But when you go to file it, Wyoming is at least looking for the fact that your buyer agency agreement matches what you get paid in the ratified contract that you have.
And that one lines it out. It says buyer agent commission to be X from X, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It looks like this. And what it does is it actually just labels it, so it's just one line. It doesn't change it from something to something. The
Okay.
range does, all the other ones do, but this one just has one line that says that's what the percentage will be. Um, Remember to use in your buyer agency agreements.
Wait, oh,
Remember to use in your buyer agency agreements the additional provisions. You're putting those 3 in there. Is that correct?
Yeah. You're not working with somebody else. You're
Yeah.
I don't remember. I just copy all 3 of them at the same time.
yeah, the negotiation or something, and then the transaction
Yeah,
or
I think
broker.
it's important. I think it's important that you get permission from them and it's in the contract, right? So we always just put it in there. But to the extent that all of that is negotiable, when we're putting our fee in that contract to purchase, I think it's really important to have the line that says, "Hey, you know what? They've given us permission to negotiate that fee in the contract to purchase." And just because the line's there doesn't mean that everybody's having that conversation with them, right? So I think that clause and making sure that we talk about it just makes sure that everybody knows. Yes, I get paid, right? We already talked about that. Yes, you're not working with anybody else. You're just working with me as an exclusive. And when I do negotiate that fee in the contract, you're okay with it and you understand that I'm going to do it. So, have you guys run into anything else or any other questions from anybody that we might need to address in additional provisions on a buyer agency?
No.
Okay.
No,
Um,
I'm gonna go pull it up real quick so I can look at it. But
Okay. What in terms of what you guys are doing? 1 day, 1 hour, one property, just regular 6 month. What are you guys doing as you go to show properties?
I usually do like 4 to 6 months at least.
Let's
But
say,
turns out, I mean, if they don't like me, they're gonna get out of it anyway. So
yeah, very true. Let's say that somebody calls you and wants to go look at property, and you can't get them to come to the office and sit down. I know Tegan's got some in his truck, but are you taking a buyer agency agreement out there with you so that you can go over
yeah,
it?
I have in my bag just a couple of blank ones, a buyer's agency, a customer, and then some brokerage disclosures.
Okay. Is that what you're doing, Tegan? You just carry a few with you?
Yeah, I've been carrying a few with me. I typically ride them for a couple days, or I ride them exclusively for a property if I know they're kind of flighty, just because I
Right.
get a bunch of those. But if I've already won them, then I just ride it for 6 months or a year,
Yeah.
depending on their motivation.
Okay. Remember, you can do the addendum or the amendment to these contracts now because they're both available. Um, the way I would use an addendum, and I know I taught this in the class too, but the way I would use the addendum is typically if I wrote it for one property, I would just add either other properties to it, or I could do an amendment and I could change it to all properties in Laramie County, whatever the case is. But just make sure you're using an addendum or an amendment to alter those to make sure that they match on the other side. Um, they, all of these agreements we talk about every time are not for when everything goes good. It's for when you get the Yahoo and something's going poorly, that you want to get them fixed and taken care of. And then you got to go to court. So you want to make sure you've got the right document filled out, that all the information matches what you got going on, and that everybody has an agreement and that kind of such with it. So,
I'm working with some sellers. We haven't listed yet, but we're going to be. And
okay.
then we've been looking in Sheridan some, and she just hasn't signed the electronic documents, but we've talked about it and we continue to talk about it, but she still hasn't signed the damn things. And now she's on vacation for 2 weeks. So, I mean, am I in big trouble here or can I mean, I know her personally.
So
So
if I know her personally, I'm probably going to leverage that and say, hey, look, don't
sign the
put
damn form.
yeah, don't put me in a spot like this. I need this signed.
Okay.
I'm supposed to have it signed before I show you any houses.
Okay.
Okay?
So I there's like no excuse, is what you're saying.
Right. And here's the real deal is that Wyoming statute doesn't require it that you sign a buyer agency agreement. Wyoming statute just says, hey, look, as long as you give them a brokerage disclosure at the first opportunity and they get it, and the buyer agency agreement is signed prior to them making an offer,
Okay.
everything is good.
Okay. Because I mean,
NAR is
she's
the
seen
one
it.
that is in, NAR is the one that's enforcing a buyer's agency agreement where you denote those three things it asked for. One of which was how and who is going to pay you and how much. So just know that that's an NAR thing. Unless somebody reports you to your local MLS, and then your local MLS comes down on you and says, "Hey, here's a fine. Here's whatever our definite whatever our punishment is for you not doing it." That's where you're going to get in trouble on that side of it. And
Okay.
I don't know that anybody has that set up in our area yet for what
Okay.
it is, or if anybody's enforcing it. But you could also be sued because the protection that you got under the settlement was your agreement to make sure that you're getting those signed every single time. Now, are they coming after you as an individual? Probably not, just in terms of production and all those kinds of things. But if they wanted to put you on a list, they could. So you just want to do it as soon as you can.
Okay.
And I just tell them straight out, it's not an option for me. If you want to look at houses, I got to have this signed.
I think it was like I had it in my book and I had it like filled out, and then you like see a squirrel or like her kids are there and it's chaotic, and
Yeah.
then you're like, oh shit, we'll get it later. I'll email it to you.
Yeah.
And then
Well, one of the things that you can do, and I don't know if either one of you guys, do either one of you guys use the Dot Loop app?
No.
I mean on my phone.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh yeah, on my phone.
Okay, so you use it. So if
Mhm.
you fill it out ahead of time digitally, right, and then you take it with you because you know you're going to meet them, it's really easy to send them on the phone and then with them stand right there and go, okay, pull it up. Okay, yeah, no, we just now this is what we just talked about, right? Da da da. Here's the version that you can sign. Go ahead and sign it and kick it back to me.
So, but now my dates aren't gonna match either.
What do you mean your dates aren't going to match?
Well, because I've been working with her for like a month. And
Yeah,
so on the form it'll say, where I hand wrote in like, hey, we're working together for X amount of time to this amount of time, and then she dot loop signs it, it's gonna timestamp it that day, not
and absolutely, and I would not change. So here's my recommendation, and I'll tell you the story from my corporate career. My corporate career was when we would go through and audit documents in our files. There were some times where somebody missed a signature or missed something, and the way we always approached that is we would put a set of initials on it. We would date it, and then we would put something like, addressed with Casey Pearson, that this should have been signed at time of, buyer agency agreement signature, whatever the case is, and how we addressed it and what we did to train to do it. But we never backdated or showed anything that was incorrect because you can't stand on that in anywhere, right? I would much rather look at somebody and go, "Yep, I made a mistake. Here's the date that I took it to her." And because the other thing is that the Wyoming statute says that you need to have the discussion with them and then have it signed right before whatever ends up happening when you buy. NAR says you have to have it before you show and you have to have a conversation with them about it. Well, you had the conversation, you just didn't get the signature. And I would much rather stand in front of somebody and go, yeah, we had the discussion. She remembers it. She knows the conversation. I know we had the conversation. She didn't sign it. So I went ahead and when we figured out and caught it, that we missed it, I sent it to her digitally. She signed off on it. Yeah, the dates don't match. I'll make sure that I don't do that again. And then
okay.
let them slap your hand, take your birthday, do whatever.
But what about the fact that like, so the husband has been out of the country, but mainly I'm working with her, but when we go to buy, he's on it.
That's okay. Has he seen a house yet?
He saw one.
But he hasn't signed either.
Mm-mm.
You got to be a hard ass. Ask Tegan if he lets him not sign.
Anymore, and I was gonna say it earlier, like I'm not like if you want to work with me, you're signing the listing. I don't care if we're listing it in 6 months. You're signing it. We're putting a coming live deal in 7 months or 6 months. We'll adjust it at that time. If you're wanting to work with me buyer wise, I don't care if I'm working with you for 2 years. You're signing that document because that's how I lose them. I want their name in blood because I'm not working my ass off for nothing.
So should I tell like Jennifer, like, hey, listen, like I know Josh is in Costa Rica. Can you at least sign this form for me today?
Yeah,
Josh doesn't have access to email in Costa Rica. He's probably emailing people every day,
I mean, he probably just doesn't give a shit. But yeah,
but I
right?
mean,
that's
at the end of the day, I've had documents that we've signed the purchase agreement with buyer one, and then we've adjusted it so we have buyer two on there.
Yep.
So I just sign
okay.
her, use her, add him an addendum when you get ready to purchase, or show him a
Yep.
home when he gets home.
Um,
I would absolutely agree with that as well. You can absolutely do that.
um, so I'll just tell her Josh can flood in. Country.
And
Okay.
I do have a lot of times, and I'm sure everybody does, where I have like one of the two spouses or whatever come into town and we sign with the first one. Second one hasn't seen anything. We might be under contract before the second one ever sees it.
Yeah.
And then we just add them to the contract and be ready to go.
Yeah, because it's like and I'm gonna reshare it right now because I'm like, dude. But that like, and that's my fault for even letting her get in the door without seeing it. Oh, she said, okay, sorry, let me try it for my computer again. So
Yeah,
I mean,
see,
she's nice, and I'm like, God.
well, and you know the drill. People will just in if you don't stay on them, they'll just do whatever. So
Um, wait, yes, dogs. By the way, they know my sister's here that dings on my phone. So they all get up. Oh my God, somebody's here for us.
and then so remember that section 7 in your buyer agency agreement. This is what it used to say: cost of services or products obtained from outside sources. Broker will not obtain or order products or services from outside sources unless buyer has previously authorized the services in writing and has agreed to pay for those services promptly. So that's what it used to say. And then the new version is this whole long one, which is the A, which is what it used to say, and then all of this other stuff which buyers advised to do. So I know, Casey, you haven't been in the class for the new contracts yet, but we've added this part into buyer agency agreement, adding in another form that's going to be other services for contracts. But it's basically just trying to make sure that you get points and places to talk about the fact that you are doing real estate only.
Okay.
Section A, 7A, is what makes the requirement for the document that notifies what inspections you're doing, basically, and that your clients are okay with them and that they're going to pay for them if you're scheduling them and doing them. If your
And
buyers are scheduling their own inspections,
but if I have that form, the like,
this one just says, look, if there's something that comes up that's lawyer related, don't ask me. If there's something that comes up electrician wise, don't ask me. And it's
okay,
not, you don't want to be that rude about it, but you're just like, hey, look, there are
not
people
my field.
and folks that we have in place to take care of these other items.
And
You need,
they usually schedule their own, and then I send the like notification form to the agent.
okay, and that's good because the other requirement is that in the contract it says they have to have 24-hour notice.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So I
Yep.
think I'm doing it right, just
Yep.
overthinking.
No, I think
Okay.
you're good. Um, what else, Tegan? What else about buyer agency, intermediary?
Am I required to sign that agent form that basically states we're real estate agents, we're not blah blah blah? Do I have to sign that form or no?
I guess I don't know why I would sign it as part of the contract. Is there not a signature on it for a agent?
I just forgot it the last two and I wasn't gonna go back.
What part of this are you talking about?
Hang on, I'll pull it up.
It's a new form you haven't seen. Basically, it's
Oh,
stating that we're agents, we're not whatever just came in that one, and it's a long drawn out form. And then the buyer and the seller signs it before any. Also, can we get those split into buyer and seller rather than just being Wyoming, whatever?
Yeah, I'm trying. I got to try and finish the templates this week.
so this one I'm supposed to have on top of everything else.
So it's a what it is it's a strong suggestion that you use it. I can't make it mandatory necessarily. But can you see that, Casey?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like there's yeah, there's one right there, I guess.
I've
So
Uh
seen
we're doing,
two of them on the listing side. The buyer's agents brought them to me, but I haven't done it my side just because I'm lazy and forget about it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would say that you don't necessarily have to sign this one because it's them that are agreeing to it for you. So all it does is just going to autofill your name in that slot.
No, but should I have them sign it every time?
Yes, you should have them sign it.
Okay,
so
so
one form, one of us is gonna generate it, or like, Tegan's gonna have one and I'm gonna have one, even if we're working together.
If you were working together, you'd have one for your clients, and Tegan would have one for his.
Okay.
and then we would send it over whenever we got under contract. You'd sign mine, I'd sign yours.
I do not think that you have to have both sides sign it, Tegan. I think this is one of those forms that is a multi-use one. So as opposed to what Wyoming did with all the other ones where they had a buyer and a seller version, I would just use this on your side. There's no reason that it needs to go to both. Because like if you're with another agent, if you sent me a form to have them sign, I know this one probably is not the one that I would deny necessarily, but I'd probably tell you to go pound sand. I'd be like, look, if you want somebody to sign your shit, have your own people sign it. I'm not doing that, whatever. But for this one, I would just have your people sign it for whatever they are. If you're working with buyers, do it on the buyers. If you're working with the sellers, do it on the sellers. And even if I had both sides, you could have that would be the only time I'd probably see buyer and seller signatures on it.
Wait, I'm confused. So like you're gonna bring this to them. If I have the buyer,
Yep.
I'm gonna show them this, and then I'm gonna have the seller acknowledge it on the same form or not on the same form.
If you had both sides, you could. Is all I'm saying.
So it's not gonna be like the lead-based paint disclosure where both sides
It
have to
is
sign it.
not. It is not. This is just informational. It's not required by Wyoming statute.
Okay.
Not
Whichever
required by.
side I'm working with, if I have the seller, they're gonna sign the seller. If I have the
Yep.
buyer, they're signing the buyer.
Yeah, and we had these discussions, and you'll see it when you watch the class back. But it's just another way to try and have the conversation. Cameron at the state, who's the investigator, feels like if you had this form used all the time and you had the discussion, which is why they added it into buyer agency as well and did a little tweaks on it in the listing agreement, he thinks that 99% of the complaints would go away if everybody had these conversations every single time.
Okay.
So just another way to try and protect you guys as agents.
Okay.
Piece of cake.
Yeah, I need to watch that recording this afternoon, and I think that I'll feel better.
All right. Anything else? We got 15 minutes, but I'll give you 15 minutes of your time back.
Yeah, I think that I'm good for today. Just to bite that off, but
if you can talk to the guys that write the addendums in there, I
No.
would really, really appreciate one about appraisers. I really want to set that timeline. I've talked to David about it. I've talked to Tim about it. Tim said there used to be an agent that he knew that had it. Talked to another broker here in Newcastle. I'm pissed. I kind of want to have one.
Well, I mean, so we can work one out, Tegan. But were you just trying to set a deadline for them?
Yeah, and it'd probably be just like a week after the inspection. It needs to be ordered, date set, blah, 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 notified everybody. Like, not it needs to be done by X date, but at least that time it like shows the appraiser, it shows the lender, like, you need to get on your shit rather than me waiting for 6 days before closing. We still don't even have our appraisal here.
Yeah, that's like a lender thing though, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
Well, it is. So
they
this is
have their shit together.
yeah, this is the conversation we had. Is that you really can't. You don't have any mechanism to hold them accountable for it. But I think Tegan and I's conversation last week, and then mine with some other agents, was if at least if it's in there and everybody kind of signs off on it, then at least everybody knows what the expectation is. The hard part's going to come if they aren't meeting that expectation. What do you do? Are you kicking them out and saying we're going to a new buyer because you don't have it yet? So that
And
would
no,
be
I don't
that would
think
be the other
so.
difficult part.
Like you said, I just really want a scare tactic. I want something like, hey, it's in contract. It states that you need to have this. It needs to be done by X date. If it doesn't happen, most likely we're not walking away from the contract.
Right. You
Does
want
get
the option for the contract. You want the contract to become voidable at the sole option of the seller.
Yeah, like I said, I just want some skin in the game, or perceived skin.
Put on scary masks and run at them really really fast.
Yeah, pretty much.
Um, and you have a lot of issue with that up there. Is it because the appraisers are coming from somewhere other than Newcastle or what?
Yeah, every single appraiser we have comes from outside of Newcastle. And just, I get not having it in ordered until our inspection. I understand that completely. But like the day after that resolution deadline, it better be on their table. And
Right.
because other than that, you're going to be extending. And
And how long are your inspection deadlines and resolution deadlines out usually?
resolution's usually about 2 days after. Inspection, it changes hardcore. Uh,
Depending on what your access is.
yeah. On my side, I typically try to have them within the first 10 days. On the other side, I've seen anywhere from 5 days to 20 days. I've seen everything.
And really all you care about is that the appraisal is in prior to closing with enough time to do repairs if you need to.
Yeah, I want it at least back 10 days. I mean, 10 days if we need to get siding, if we need to get roof bids, if we need to get whatever.
Let's say that so that's a time. Let's say, well, are you doing 30-day closes?
Yeah, I'm kind of pushing myself closer to 45. Majority of mine, I'm going about 40 day.
Right. I was gonna say because by the time you get 10 business days in for inspections, 2 business days on top of that for some kind of resolution to it. I
Yeah,
mean,
we're
you're
at
two and a
22
half
days.
weeks in to a 30-day close. Tell me what you wanted to say, and I'll grab some language out of Colorado because Colorado has an appraisal deadline in their contracts. Louisiana may as well with Ashley out of Casper. So send me kind of what you're thinking. I'll throw some of that language with it, and we'll get Mike to sign off on some kind of a clause you can use, and then you can try it and see if it's effective.
Can you actually just send me what they have and then, or like at least the Colorado one, so I have something to kind of play off of?
Yeah, I'll get something from Aaron. I think with Aaron, I think Colorado is literally just a date in all of their dates. So Colorado has this section that kicks out in their contract that has all the dates in it, and I think one of the line items is just an appraisal deadline. So I'll see what it looks like and send it over to you though.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay. And speaking of that, I guess any other clauses that anybody's run into that they might need, Casey, I would love to see you just actually copying the clauses out of the edition, out of the commonly used ones,
Yes.
as opposed to writing them all the time.
Um,
Because
s- so I guess which ones? Can you give me an example? Because I thought
uh,
I was.
well, so like I mean, there's a clause for just about everything that you need typically. I think.
Okay. I can
You're
do
gonna
better.
you're gonna write the ones individually, like, and I don't know how you guys as MLS does it up there in terms of keeping it active and that kind of thing. We have specific statuses that we can use. If it doesn't fit into one of those statuses, then we would have to do what you're doing, which is writing it and making it up in additional provisions. But I don't know how you're going to leave it with your MLS if there's no active under contract, still accepting backup offers kind of status for it.
Okay. Okay. So like yesterday, I should just be looking in there and plucking out more.
See what's in there, and if it doesn't fit, then you're gonna have to write it.
Okay.
But that way, if you, as opposed to you writing something and worried about whether you get a second set of eyes on it, those are already approved by Mike
Yeah. Okay.
to be able to use. And we tried to
Okay.
keep it really simple. There's not a lot of craziness in there. They're all pretty
Okay.
standard.
Okay.
Tegan, anything you need other than get me my damn appraisal?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Everything I'm good with, and just copy and paste out of the provisions. I might try that the roof one that you guys were using and just see how it kind of goes market wise, but I can almost guarantee we're gonna get a huge.
I can just about guarantee I know what their response is going to be as well. So,
Yeah.
and I guess here's the deal: though, when people first see it, unless they really read it, they're like, "Oh, it's a roof kind of thing," you know. So, yeah, you just have to see what the reaction is to it, and then, yeah, who knows?
I mean, about 60% of my market isn't gonna read it at all. They're gonna say exactly like it. Oh, they just want to know the roof is good.
Yeah,
But the other 40% that meticulously read it over, yeah, I can pretty well tell you they're gonna tell me to go pound sand.
yeah, yeah. That's okay though.
But we get it
And
through one time, that'll be the time I need it, you know.
right. And then, are you using the hail clause that they wrote in Rapid City?
I'm not yet, but I probably should with insurance going nutso about it.
Well, and have you guys gotten some hail up there yet?
Just pea-sized maybe,
We
but
got maybe 1 inch hail, give or take, last week, but it was pretty soft. But there was one day where it literally looked like there was 2 inches of snow.
oh
So
shit.
yeah, and the wind was blowing pretty hard that day. So um, right on. Yep. Nope. That's all I got for today, guys. Next week we'll look at listing agreements and those addendums and that kind of stuff, and then talk through some of that other stuff. But we'll just kind of do this all the way through the new ones. Sometime by the end of the weekend, Tegan, you'll have all the new templates in, and I'll label them as 2025, and I'll label the old ones, and then we technically can't remove the old ones because it takes away the documents apparently. But you'll have new templates where you pull them up, and it'll just have all your brand new documents in them and everything.
Okay, that works for me.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. Good luck.
Thank you. You
Thank
guys
you.
too.
Bye.